for the flag salute and moment of silence. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, it's actually not. Okay. Okay. Roll call, please.
All right. Commissioner Pollock-Root.
Present.
Commissioner Serco.
Present.
Commissioner Sotile.
Present.
And Commissioner Edison.
Present.
And let the record show that Commissioner Morose is absent.
Okay. Welcome to the El Cajon Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is live streamed on the City of El Cajon website. Appeals of the final decisions of the Planning Commissions made this evening must be filed in writing with the City Clerk before 5 p.m. Friday, June 30th, 2023, and must include the payment of a filing fee. If you wish to speak on either a non-agenda or agenda item tonight, please fill out the request to speak card located by the agenda and turn it into the secretary, who will call you up to speak when the agenda item comes up for public comment. We ask that you give us your last name and your spelling of your last name. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The display on the podium, as well as the other monitors in the chambers, will show the countdown. At the 30 seconds, the podium clock readout will turn red, signifying you have 30 seconds until the end of your time. Applicants and individuals representing the groups of people may be allowed more time if appropriate. Excuse me. All public hearing comments should be addressed to me as the chair of the commission and not to individual commissioners or to staff members. Please, if you have not done already, turn off all electronic devices. Pursuant to the City Council Resolution number 114-79, a commissioner who has received evidence related to the matter before the Planning Commission other than an unescorted view of the subject property is required to disclose such information at the hearing. At this time, we will take comments from any member of the public on any item of business within the jurisdiction of the Commission that is not on the agenda. Under state law, no action can be taken on these items brought forward under public comment, except to refer it to staff for administration or place on a future agenda. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the Commission under public comment? Please come forward. I take it that's nobody. Let's consent calendar. A single motion will cover all items on the consent calendar. Does the Commission wish to pull a consent calendar item for discussion?
No.
Does the staff wish to pull an item?
No changes from staff.
Perfect. Then, okay. So,
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes as recorded.
Perfect.
I'll second it.
So it's, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.
Perfect. Okay. So the first item for the public hearing tonight, as I didn't scan forward, is not on my little sheet here. So maybe you can have the operator error. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. So we have to consider the amendment revocation of conditional use permit number 1123 for the lodging establishment.
Correct. Thank you.
Perfect.
So for tonight's public hearing, again, this is a request to consider an amendment or revocation of conditional use permit number 1123, and that is for the lodging establishment at 550 Montrose Court. It's currently branded as Motel 6. Just want to be clear that this item was initiated by the Planning Commission at your April 18th, 2023 meeting. So just as a reminder, the aerial map shown here shows the subject site. It's 3 acres in size. The motel does include 174 rooms, with the building centrally located on the site and then surrounded by parking. The site is accessed from the northerly end of Montrose Court and is generally located on the north side of West Madison Avenue between Compton Street and North Magnolia Avenue. The site is governed by a specific plan, that's specific plan number 329. That does allow the development of a motel and restaurant in the OP zone with a conditional use permit. So a slightly unique circumstance here with the conditional use permit process already in place. Conditional use permit number 1123 was approved back in 1985, and that authorized the development of the motel and then the former restaurant to the east. So the restaurant obviously is closed. Right now, a children's daycare center has been approved to take over the former restaurant. They have been issued their building permit, and they're working on improvements to the building. The other adjacent uses do include apartments to the west, offices to the south, and then Interstate 8 to the north. So at the April 18th Planning Commission meeting, the lodging establishment's deemed approved status was revoked, and the Planning Commission directed staff to schedule a public hearing to consider an amendment or revocation of conditional use permit 1123 within 90 days. And that, again, is the purpose of tonight's meeting. Additionally, at the April 18th meeting, the Planning Commission requested that the operator take certain actions within 30 days, which are shown here on this slide. The requested actions were to prepare an operations and management plan, remove the unauthorized gate blocking the fire lane or find an alternative solution, implement a security service, and then remove all trash and debris from the parking lot. Staff can report that these items have been completed. The operations and management plan has been submitted and reviewed by the police department, and the applicant has incorporated staff's recommendations into that operations and management plan. The temporary gate has been approved that's existing out there at the subject site by Heartland Fire and Rescue, and the operator has applied for a permanent gate that's in process right now. The operator has also increased security, and then all trash and debris were promptly removed after the last public hearing. Additional recommended actions by the Planning Commission are shown here on this slide. The applicant has completed or is in the process of completing all these actions. For the signing of an affidavit, the draft Planning Commission resolution recommends that the affidavit acknowledging the deemed approved lodging ordinance be included in the final version of the operations and management plan. The operator and employees have completed human trafficking training, and they've submitted those certificates to staff. And they did provide a monthly report for May that's been submitted to the city. It does identify information regarding the emergency housing placement programs that they're participating in. We're continuing to work with the operator to get the details that we need, but they did provide that information, and that's included in the staff report. Staff also conducted a review of calls for service between March 24th of 2023. That was the cutoff date prior to the April 18th meeting, up to June 1st of 2023. That was a total of a 10-week period. Over that 10-week period, we saw 25 calls for services that could be attributed to medical or nuisance-related activities. If you take and do the math related to that, it would be 2.5 calls per service per week. That over a 1-year period would equate to 0.75 calls per service per door per year. So that's underneath that threshold that we're asking operators to be at 1 or less. So again, over the last 10 weeks, they've been below that by 25%. I did want to note that we went through all the calls in detail, and none of those calls warranted review by the Planning Commission. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve an amendment of conditional use permit number 1123, and then direct staff to schedule a review by the Planning Commission in approximately 180 days to confirm compliance with the conditions of approval. Staff does want to note that the proposed resolution includes ongoing conditions of approval. So in the past, we've talked about the difference between the deemed approved lodging ordinance, where that's kind of the baseline. In this instance, the Planning Commission has directed staff to come back with conditions that are above and beyond that because of the circumstances related to previous activities at the site. So we have ongoing conditions of approval proposed in the resolution that include adhering to their operations and management plan in a final form that is approved by staff. And it also includes conditions related to ongoing training for the human trafficking training for new employees that are being onboarded. So staff's recommendation is to approve the draft resolution approving the Planning Commission initiated amendment of conditional use permit 1123. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Maybe I should ask the applicant. I noticed that they had an agreement for 1 year regarding the gate, and then after that, it's on a monthly basis. Do you know why it's on a monthly basis rather than on a yearly basis? The agreement between the daycare center and also the motel owners.
I do not know why. The operator applicant can likely address that issue in greater detail. I would say that the temporary gate has been authorized by the adjacent property owner, and they have submitted for the permanent gate, but we haven't gotten all the documents and everything accounted for. So I would say that that portion of getting that final approval from the property owner is still in process.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
No.
No? Okay. So since we have no other questions here, open public hearing. Do we have any speakers on this matter?
Yes, we have 2 speaker cards. The first one is Jason Sakutso.
Good afternoon, Jason Sakutso, SACCUZZO. Good to see you all. A little bit better circumstances than the last time we were here. As I told this commission at the last hearing, we were listening very carefully to what the commission was saying. And those weren't just words. I think we just heard from Mr. Alvey that we've done everything we said we would do. And we submitted to Planning Department a detailed letter laying out specifically what we've done, since our last meeting. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about what we've done, and specifically to respond to a question from the commission about why the gate agreement is only 1 year. It actually has an auto renewal provision in it. So it's really just a kind of a legal thing that it just keeps auto renewing until somebody actually goes to terminate it. We can get into the legal reasons for that, but it's just a drafting technique. I have no reason to believe that agreement's going to be terminated at some point. I mean, the parties are putting a lot of time and money into constructing a gate that everybody can be happy with. The adjacent property is well aware of the security issues that are faced at that property, given that's the end of a cul-de-sac. And without that gate, it's almost impossible to keep people from going on and off the property. So if there's other questions like that, I'm happy to answer them at this point. I did want to make a clarification. So we did have an issue with the first contractor that was going to install the gate. Apparently he was a little unnerved by all the news reports, so we lost him and had to hire a new contractor who we are expediting everything, and we hope to have those temporary repairs done in the next 2 weeks and then have the permanent repairs done. So I just wanted to clear that up, and so there's no misinformation to the commission, but we are working as fast as we can to get all that done. There's been a lot of kind of questions about the voucher situation, and obviously, I think we're all here that the vouchers were a major catalyst to the events that we talked about last time. We have undergone just very strict scrutiny of the voucher programs, making very clear that we're not going to let people slip through the system. Unfortunately, and as I would learn later on, we had no information that the PATH organization was giving out vouchers to people being released from jail. That was like completely unknown to us. And it's unfortunate that that was, concealed from us, because certainly we would not have been accepting vouchers had we known that information. And as Mr. Albee indicated, we've been very careful to clean up the trash and debris. And I just want to emphasize that the prior trash that we had seen at the last meeting, that was actually on the adjacent property, which, as you heard, they're converting to a daycare center. But we still cleaned it up. So I just wanted to make that note that, it was on the adjacent property, but we did deal with it. And I know my time is somewhat limited. Hopefully I can get a little bit more time. But okay, thank you. Thank you. Maybe like 4 or 5 minutes? That's okay? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, not retread prior history, but just kind of a short little history of this whole thing. Prior to March 23rd, 2023, we didn't have any issues with the city. The citation comes out. Citation is come before the commission for revocation of your deemed approved status, which is the highest level under that statute, essentially. That's kind of that's straight to the end, basically. And the reason I bring this up is that, I think we've shown that, we're a business that wants to work with the city. We want to do the right thing. We want to be in a partnership with the city. And it's, a little concerning to me to, be faced with a situation, especially for my client, that a CUP, although not being recommended to be revoked, thank you, is being recommended to be amended. And it caused me to just kind of look into the issues a little bit more and the procedures as far as, what grounds would justify either revocation or amendment of a CUP. And it's cited in one of the earlier reports as being the Municipal Code 17.35.030. And there's 3 bases upon which a conditional use permit can be revoked or amended. The first is if the original conditional use permit was obtained by fraud. I don't think there's any evidence of that here, obviously. It was in 1985, and I don't think anybody is still around from those days. So I don't think that's an issue. The other ground is if the approval is if the use is being used contrary to what was approved, and obviously it's a hotel and that's what was approved. So that kind of brings us to the very end. And the last basis for revocation or modification is if the property is a nuisance. So this is where we get into my field a little bit more as a lawyer. So you got to ask the question: is the hotel a nuisance? And if so, what is the evidence that the hotel is a nuisance? We had a criminal incident occur at the hotel, but in the law, a criminal incident that is generally considered unforeseeable. And again, I think we have some extraneous circumstances here with vouchers being, with a company that was issuing vouchers and concealing important information from us. So I don't know if that's something that could necessarily be held against a hotel. We looked at the prior nuisance calls from the property, and we were a little bit over the line, but we were kind of right on the line of where we're needed to be, and obviously we've dropped that quite a bit. The trash and debris, I mentioned that, and the gate issue, that's being diligently worked on. So the first step is to either revoke or modify our CUP. The commission needs to first conclude that the hotel was a nuisance. But even if it concludes the hotel is a nuisance, the question becomes, has the hotel refused to comply with reasonable conditions? And I don't think there's any evidence of that. The contrary, we've done everything we can to comply with what the city has asked us. We prepared and worked with Mr. Albee's office to prepare the operation and management plan. We accepted all the changes that were proposed to us, and we have been implementing that plan vigorously. It concerns me that now we are changing the CUP or modifying the CUP and acting not so much as a partner in this whole situation, but more as adversaries. And I don't think that's what the city wants to foster. It would be a different story, I would submit, if we just thumbed our nose and said, no, we're going to continue doing what we're doing. We're not going to clean up the trash and debris. We're just going to let anybody stay here without having any oversight whatsoever. But that's absolutely not the case. In fact, I walked the property with Mr. Rolfos, who is our general manager here today, and he showed me all the things they've been doing as far as making sure everyone has IDs, making sure that we know who's in each room. We installed 32 brand new high-definition cameras through the property, that every inch of that property is monitored now. We have the security, all those things. So, yeah, I'll sum it up. So, and in going through what's been proposed, and I think the thing that gives me the most concern is that as part of the resolution that we are to essentially abide by Planning Commission Resolution 10649, which, if you read it, it applies to new property. So you read these things, and it's a little concerning because it's so vague as to what we're going to be required to do. Again, I would submit that there's no legal basis or evidence for modification or revocation, but even if we are going to take that step to a modification, I think we really need to rein in what specifically the city would impose on us and not have some vague standards. And I've heard, prior Commissioner Misero, I may be mispronouncing his last name, and he asked a question of hearings: how many CUPs has the city ever revoked? And then the speaker said, I don't know, and he said 0. That's great. We have a reasonable commission here, but what happens 5 years from now? That's my concern. My request for the commission is this: that we work as partners towards addressing these issues and not through an amendment or possible revocation of the COP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes, of course.
Regarding the gates, what plans are there for, in the daycare? Usually people drop off and pick up kids.
Yeah.
How are they going to operate that?
Right.
And keep it, make sure that's secure?
Yeah, we actually put in that agreement a plan when the gate gets opened up by our staff and then closed at certain times. So it's all set forth in the agreement between the properties.
Okay, so it's a particular time, so
Yeah,
everybody would know.
right. So when parents are dropping off, it's open so they can get in, and then when the kids are there and the parents aren't there, it closes back down, and then in the afternoon it reopens up. So there's a schedule that's actually in the agreement.
Yeah, and it's in control on both sides.
Say again?
The control is on both sides.
Right. Yeah. This is everyone's got. The two properties have access to it. Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
And Chair, if I may clarify, the daycare facility does have a significant parking lot that extends from the former restaurant building all the way down to West Madison Avenue with over 50 stalls. So there'll be sufficient on-site parking for drop-off and pickup. When I've spoken to the daycare operator, they've indicated that they may use that for more secure parking for their employees, but there's plenty of space for pickup and drop-off.
And is that the only driveway that there is, or is there another driveway?
There's additional driveways for the daycare that are on the east side of Montrose Court.
Mm-hmm.
So right if you're coming on Madison and you turn onto Montrose Court, there's a driveway on the right, and then there's a driveway on the left for Motel 6, and then there's the central driveway straight ahead. That's the driveway that's proposed to be gated.
Gated. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, sir.
Just to talk a little bit about the difference between the deemed approved and the CUPs. We did this with liquor licenses, our liquor stores. We had liquor stores that were in existence before they were inside the city boundaries. And so the deemed approved ordinance was a blanket program that brought everybody into deemed approved compliance, whether or not they had a CUP previously or not. And with the hotel deemed approved ordinance, it's kind of the same thing. We had a couple rogue hotels, yours was not one of them, that the deemed approved ordinance was a blanket, bring everybody into the fold, so that we've got a bare minimum of these are the controls that we expect all hotels and motels to have. Mm-hmm. You guys already had a CUP, you already had a specific plan, but the deemed approved kind of pushed that to the side for the moment and was, for now, everybody's on the same page. So we're going back to a conditional use permit, and that's not a negative thing. I want that to be very clear to you guys. This is not a negative thing. You guys are great participants in the process. You've done everything we asked for, but the CUP is how hotels and many aspects of our city are controlled. This is just a set of controls, but the CUP was issued in 1985. Issues are slightly different now. It has been modified from the 1985 CUP, but that's not to say that we've put onerous restrictions on you. The big one that I saw was that the operational plan that you guys submitted, that I have in the report here, that you're going to follow that. I don't think we previously had an operational plan as part of the CUP. So the very minor amendments to the previous CUP, but it's all operational, and you guys have already put that plan forward.
Right, and I think I was just making the point that it did have that line about that resolution in there, and if you read the resolution, it seems to apply to new buildings, and there was just a lot of vague language in that. And speaking as a lawyer, that could be a big problem with a different commission or different set of enforcement people. So I would just, maybe we need to look at that and narrow it down a little bit more and just be more specific if we can. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I'm sure that staff can answer that.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So it's the staff included in the ongoing conditions of approval, the standard conditions of development. And the standard conditions of development just have items in there that staff wants to ensure if there's modifications to the site or adhere to. So as an example, the standard conditions of development encourage the use of landscaping and islands rather than bollards, like so the concrete metal poles to separate the parking lot from landscaping. So it's things of that nature where we want to make the applicant and operator aware of those standard conditions so that if they were to come in and propose something, or if they want to do something that is that doesn't necessarily require a building permit, that's our expectation for how the site would be modified.
Okay. And then I wanted to say, after reading your letter, I thought that the 24-hour security was probably a little bit much, and your findings that between 10 and 6, having worked security before, that's when a lot of things happen.
Right, and funny, before we came here, I was speaking with security, and that was their assessment as well. But just to be clear, this would be the minimum. We would up it if we needed to, or if there were problems, or maybe in the fall when it gets darker earlier, we would bring on extra security. But we just think, as far as something being, to the extent that our CUP is going to be modified, and we're going to be under official rules, so to speak, we would like to have a little bit more control over that.
Okay. That's all I had.
Well, thank you for coming, first of all, and I appreciate the work you guys have done. It came at a cost and probably a lot of time. I was one of the ones that was proposing 24-hour security. I would just like to say that I think the city of El Cajon has a history of being reasonable. So just hearing you kind of answer one of my questions, if you do go to the limited security, my first question would be, would you be willing to reconsider that and to go back to 24 hours should problems develop, especially with the children that would be next door? I just wanted to hear it from you.
Absolutely. I mean, we as a business don't want criminal activity happening on the property, and if problems arise, we would definitely address it. And I would want to note, actually, with the daycare center going in, because bear in mind that property was vacant for a long time, it was a major problem. But now we're going to have a new building that's fenced in. That's helped a lot. The city has been helping us as well. I understand from Mr. Wolfels, the city actually just put in new street lights at the cul-de-sac, which have lit up that whole area. So there seems to be kind of a cumulative effect that's helping with the whole security aspects of that property. It is a difficult property to patrol, just given the location, but we're confident that we can keep the momentum going, but if for some reason we start slipping, we are prepared to increase the security. And by the way, we currently have 24-hour security right now, and we haven't made a call. We're going to stop it anytime soon, but we just want to have that option when we feel like we have things under control.
I appreciate that, and just coming from at least the a business has the responsibility as far as the public safety to make sure that that business is safe, and I understand that you don't know everything that happens in a room. I think the intent is to ensure that the motel is used for its intended purpose for the intended people, and that people that aren't supposed to be in there per current city ordinances, like minors that are unaccompanied minors, let me say, are not there. I like the momentum. I love what I'm seeing. I do appreciate the fact that you guys are cooperating with the city. So I would really hope that you wouldn't think it's adversarial. I don't think that's the intent. I think consistency is, a better word for it. And if there's a problem, that's the process. I don't believe this to be adversarial, but I do appreciate your efforts.
Right, and I concur with this commission that knowing who's in the building is important. And speaking with Mr. Roffels, I mean, they are very, very strict. They watch the cars that come in, and if there's people, say somebody checks in with one person, and there's two people in the car, we find out very quickly who that person is. There's not a situation where people are registering rooms and other people are paying. None of that happens at the hotel.
Perfect. Pretty good. I think this isn't to make it more difficult for you or pull things away from you. I think we're just trying to work together cohesively to make sure it's it's an unfortunate event that happened. We don't want to put you guys under a microscope because you guys have done a lot to bring it up to standards. We just want to keep that consistency and that safety factor, and that's all this is really about. We're not trying to pull away. We're just trying to work together as a team to make sure that it's safe for your customers as well as the city. So,
understood. And I don't know if this is procedurally proper, but maybe there could be a process where we could work on a CUP amendment together, and maybe just be kind of clear or a little clearer as to what the ultimate expectations are. I don't know if that's possible procedurally, but that's just something that comes to mind.
Well, I'm sure staff would be good to work with you guys on that. So any other questions? Were there any other speaker cards?
Yes, we have one more.
I did have Mr. Roffels fill out a card, but it was more specifically if the commission had any questions about current operations and the things they've been doing just to ensure the safety of guests. But if the commission doesn't have any specific questions, I'm sure you'd be happy not to speak.
Well, looking at the calls that we've got in from the police, the changes have made a sufficient impact on your daily operations. Do you have anything to add or?
I did want to mention that Mr. Roffels can speak to this, but I do believe most of the calls are medical in relation.
Yeah.
I don't think there were many nuisance calls.
No.
I think we might have, at least internally within that period, there might have been 3 or 4, and they were all kind of unusual situations.
Yeah.
But
I just work tirelessly to make sure that I do everything to comply and make it the best that I can, make the community better. That's what I do all day, every day. So as long as I keep doing that, it'll just get better.
Well, thank you for your efforts.
Yep.
So is that?
That was it.
That
There's
was
only
it?
the 2
Okay.
speaker cards.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much.
If I may, before we close
Yeah,
the public
yeah.
hearing, because we've done this a couple times where we close the public hearing, we ask staff a question, then
And
we
then we
have to
have to
reopen
open
the
it back up
public
again.
hearing.
Yes,
Could we ask staff the question about the CUP?
to work together
Yeah.
in tandem, maybe to clarify it so they have a better understanding or maybe have some input to kind of work together on that or?
Sure. I mean, ultimately, the municipal code allows the operator or property owner to initiate an amendment to the conditional use permit. The Planning Commission also has the authority to initiate an amendment, as was done in this case. So we can definitely continue to work together. I think I can provide additional insight to the applicant and operator with regards to those standard conditions of development so they better understand the expectations. But there's not an expectation for further site modifications or other things. It's just to make sure that those are our standard conditions that we want to see for all new projects that come through, so that if they are contemplating a modification or a new project, they're aware of what those are. And like I said before, if they're doing a modification to the site that doesn't necessarily require a building permit or approval from the city, that they can see what those standard conditions are. The other aspect of this is the staff recommendation does include a recommendation in 180 days to confirm compliance with the conditions of approval. I think we can continue to collaborate together on implementation of the conditions of approval, and then certainly in 180 days, if in conjunction with the discussion, the Planning Commission could again initiate an additional amendment to the CUP, or separately you could direct the applicant and say, this is your responsibility. You can propose an amendment, and staff will bring it back to us. So I think those are our options for collaborating.
So I think that'd be helpful. You could collaborate on those few vague items to make sure that it's.
Yeah, very much. And Mr. Alvey's been very helpful.
Yes, perfect.
Mr. Alvey's very helpful.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And I believe those, the lighting and the cameras, the video cameras that you implemented on the property, I think it's excellent. I think that in itself reduces nuisance on the premises. I think that. Thank you very much for doing that. That's great.
Looking at those cameras, they catch every aspect of the property. There's not a corner of that property that's not on camera 24 hours a day.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. So you can close the public hearing now? Okay.
I move to close the public hearing.
Okay. Please vote. Sirko and Sutile.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.
Perfect. So now we're on. So does anybody have a?
I think they've done a great job. I mean, they were doing a good job before. They've just taken it
Up
to
a
the
level.
next level. And I don't anticipate more issues. I mean, there's always unfortunate incidents, but they're doing everything they can to prevent another incident from occurring at their hotel. They've brought up the standards to put in the cameras. They've fixed the gate or working on a new gate. And they've got night security patrol. I mean,
Yeah.
And also sending a message to the organizations like PATH, where the system of paying for the hotel rooms is sending a message that they better be careful when they send people out to various locations, that they better do a background check at least to the effect that they just didn't come out of prison. I think that's wonderful that we're doing what we're doing.
So then because we're not going to revoke, we're just to have the amendment go forward, and they can work together to get the amendment done.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll take a stab at it. Great. Well, I make a motion that they will consider the amendment of the conditional use permit number 1123 for the lodging establishment, with further working with them.
I believe you said consider. Did you mean adopt?
Adopt. Thank you for the clarification. So to adopt the amendment of the conditional use permit 1123 for lodging establishment.
And then if I may also clarify, on the staff recommendation, we have the recommendation to do a planning commission review within 180 days. Would you like to include that in the motion? Or?
Yes. So we move to adopt the next resolution in order approving the CEQA exemption of the amendment of CUP 1123 subject to conditions with a review in 180 days of the amendment.
Okay, I'll second it.
Very long-winded. Vote. Vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.
Okay.
Does staff have any additions?
No further communications from staff on tonight's agenda.
Perfect. Then, does anybody move to close the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Circo.
Motion made by Circo, seconded by Rude.
Please vote.
Please vote. Just give you the mic next time.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.